The vast expanse of space stretched out before the massive view screen. Grand Admiral Zixnera stood tall, his forearms clasped behind his back. His green scales shimmered under the soft light of the command bridge. He gazed at the countless stars, each one a jewel in the Galactic Empire's crown. For 10,000 years, the Empire had ruled over 1,000 alien species. Their might was unquestioned, their authority absolute. Zixnera allowed himself a small smile, a rare show of emotion for his stoic race. "Status report," he commanded, his voice a low rumble that carried across the bridge. A young officer, her tentacles twitching with nervous energy, approached. "My lord, we have detected a new planet in Sector 7G. Initial scans show signs of intelligent life." Zixnera's yellow eyes narrowed. "Interesting. Put it on screen." The view screen flickered, revealing a blue and green orb suspended in the blackness of space. White clouds swirled across its surface, and the faint lights of cities could be seen on the night side. "What do we know about this world?" Zixnera asked, his curiosity piqued. The officer consulted her datapad. "The natives call it Earth, my lord. They appear to be in the early stages of space exploration. Their technology is primitive by our standards." A low chuckle escaped Zixnera's lips. "Primitive, you say? Well, it seems we have found our next conquest." The bridge erupted in excited chatter. It had been centuries since the Empire had discovered a new species to bring into the fold. The process was always the same: arrive, overwhelm, and subjugate. It was a dance they had perfected over millennia. Zixnera raised a hand, silencing the crew. "Prepare a first contact message. Let us introduce ourselves to these Earthlings." As the communications team scrambled to obey, Zixnera turned to his second-in-command, a towering insectoid named Krizak. "What do you make of this, old friend?" Krizak's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "It seems straightforward, Admiral. A primitive species, ripe for conquest. They will make excellent servants for the Empire." Zixnera nodded, but a small part of him felt uneasy. He pushed the feeling aside. After all, what could one insignificant planet do against the might of the Galactic Empire? Days passed as the Empire's massive fleet approached Earth. Zixnera spent his time studying the reports on this new species. They called themselves humans, and despite their technological limitations, they showed a remarkable adaptability. "Fascinating creatures," he mused aloud. "They've barely left their own planet, yet they dream of the stars. Such ambition." Krizak chittered in amusement. "Ambition without power is meaningless, Admiral. They will learn their place soon enough." As Earth grew larger in the view screen, Zixnera called his war council. The Empire's greatest military minds gathered to plan the conquest of this new world. "We will follow the standard procedure," Zixnera announced. "First, a show of force to demonstrate our superiority. Then, we offer them a choice: submit or be destroyed." The council nodded in agreement. It was a tactic that had worked countless times before. Why should this be any different? As the fleet entered Earth's solar system, Zixnera felt a surge of pride. The Empire's ships blotted out the stars, a testament to their unrivaled power. Surely, these humans would tremble at the sight. "Prepare the first contact message," he ordered. "Let us introduce ourselves to our new subjects." The message was sent, a beacon of imperial might streaking across the cosmic void. Zixnera waited, confident in the response it would elicit: fear, awe, and submission, the usual reaction of inferior species. Hours passed, then days. The bridge crew grew restless. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, her voice tinged with confusion. "We're receiving a response from Earth." Zixnera leaned forward, anticipation building. "On screen," he commanded. The view screen flickered to life, showing the face of a human. The creature was small, pink, and furless, utterly unimpressive to Zixnera's eyes. But there was something in its gaze, a fire that made the Admiral pause. The human spoke, its words translated by the ship's computers. To the Galactic Empire. We, the people of Earth, have received your message. And our answer is this. We will not submit. We will not surrender. If you want our planet, you'll have to take it. Silence fell over the bridge. Zixnera blinked, unable to comprehend what he had just heard. In all his years, no species had ever dared to defy the Empire so boldly. He turned to Krizak, seeing his own shock mirrored in the insectoid's compound eyes. It seems, Zixnera said slowly, that this conquest may not be as straightforward as we thought. As the implications of the human's words sank in, Zixnera felt a chill run down his spine. For the first time in millennia, the Galactic Empire faced a species that didn't know its place in the universe. The war for Earth was about to begin, and deep in his core, Zixnera knew it would be unlike any the Empire had ever fought before. The response from Earth had sent shockwaves through the Galactic Empire's fleet. Admiral Zixnera paced the bridge of his flagship, his scales flashing with agitation. How dare these primitive beings defy the Empire? Krizak, he barked, turning to his insectoid second-in-command. Prepare a stronger message. Make them understand the consequences of their foolish defiance. Krizak's antennae twitched nervously. Yes, Admiral, but perhaps we should consider a more diplomatic approach. Zixnera's yellow eyes narrowed. Diplomacy. With inferiors. No, we will show them our might. Prepare the ultimatum. On Earth, the situation was tense. World leaders had gathered in an emergency session at the United Nations. The alien message had been broadcast worldwide, and panic was spreading. In New York, General Sarah Chen of the newly formed Earth Defense Force addressed the assembly. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed her concern. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, we face the greatest threat in human history. An alien empire has demanded our surrender. But I say this, humanity will not go quietly into the night. Cheers erupted from the delegates. Chen raised her hand for silence. We have already begun mobilizing our forces. Every nation, every person must contribute to our defense. We may be outgunned, but we will not be outfought. As Chen spoke, scientists and engineers around the world were working frantically. They pored over the scans of the alien ships, looking for weaknesses, trying to understand the advanced technology. In a secret lab beneath the Mojave Desert, Dr. Aiden Patel stared at his computer screen in disbelief. This can't be right, he muttered. His colleague, Dr. Maria Gonzalez, looked over his shoulder. What is it, Aiden? Patel pointed at the screen. Look at these energy readings from the alien ships. They're using a form of faster-than-light travel that's... Well, it's similar to a theory I've been working on. Gonzalez's eyes widened. Are you saying we could replicate their technology? Patel nodded slowly. With time, yes. But time is something we don't have. Back on the Empire's flagship, Zixnera watched as his ultimatum was transmitted to Earth. His voice boomed across space. People of Earth, your defiance is noted, but futile. We are the Galactic Empire, rulers of 1,000 worlds. Our fleet darkens your skies. Our technology is beyond your comprehension. You have one Earth rotation to surrender, or we will demonstrate our power by destroying your largest city. Choose wisely. The message ended, leaving a deathly silence on the bridge. Krizak approached Zixnera cautiously. Admiral, are you certain about this course of action? Destroying a city. Zixnera waved a dismissive hand. It is necessary. These humans must learn their place. On Earth, the ultimatum sparked a frenzy of activity. Military bases around the world went on high alert. Civilian populations in major cities were evacuated. In labs and workshops, scientists and engineers worked around the clock, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. In the White House Situation Room, President Evelyn Carter sat with her advisors. The weight of the world rested on her shoulders. What are our options? She asked, her voice tight with stress. General Chen spoke up. Madam President, Our conventional weapons will be useless against their ships, but we've been analyzing their communication signals. We believe we can hack into their systems." Carter leaned forward. "To do what exactly?" "To buy us time," Chen replied. "And maybe, just maybe, to fight back." As the deadline approached, humanity held its breath. In homes and bunkers, on ships and in space stations, people waited to see if their world would survive. Aboard the Empire's flagship, Zixnera watched the countdown with growing anticipation. These humans would learn the price of defiance. As the final seconds ticked away, he opened his mouth to give the order to fire. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. Screens flickered and went dark. Krizak rushed to a console. "Admiral, we're being hacked." Zixnera roared in fury. "Impossible. How could these primitives?" His words were cut off as the ship's systems shut down one by one. Across the fleet, other ships reported similar issues. On Earth, in the secret lab, Dr. Patel pumped his fist in triumph. "It worked. We're in their systems." General Chen's voice crackled over the comm. "Good work, Doctor. Now, let's show these aliens what humanity can do." As the Empire's fleet hung powerless in space, the people of Earth cheered. It was only a temporary victory, they knew. The real war was just beginning. But in that moment, humanity had proven something to themselves and to the galaxy. They would not go quietly. They would fight. And the Galactic Empire had just made the biggest mistake in its 10,000-year history. Admiral Zixnera's rage knew no bounds. The humans, those insignificant specks, had dared to hack his fleet's systems. As power slowly returned to the ships, he paced the bridge, his scales flashing dangerously. "Krizak," he bellowed. "Status report." The insectoid's second-in-command's antennae drooped. "Admiral, we've regained control of most systems, but our defensive shields are still offline." Zixnera's eyes narrowed. "It matters not. These primitives cannot hope to harm our ships. Prepare for the assault. We will teach them the price of defiance." On Earth, the mood was cautiously optimistic. The successful hack had bought them precious time, but everyone knew the real battle was yet to come. In the Pentagon's war room, General Sarah Chen addressed her team. "Good work, people, but don't celebrate yet. We've just made them angry. Expect heavy retaliation." Dr. Aiden Patel, freshly arrived from his lab, spoke up. "General, we've made progress understanding their propulsion technology. If we can adapt it to our own ships." Chen nodded. "Do it. We need every advantage we can get." High above the Earth, the Empire's fleet had regrouped. Zixnera gave the order, and thousands of fighter craft poured from the larger ships, descending upon the blue planet like a swarm of angry insects. The sky over every major city on Earth lit up with explosions. The Empire's fighters were fast, agile, and armed with weapons far beyond human technology. But they hadn't counted on human ingenuity and desperation. In New York, a squadron of alien fighters swooped between skyscrapers, firing energy beams that melted steel and glass. Suddenly, a makeshift electromagnetic pulse, cobbled together by city engineers, detonated. The alien craft dropped from the sky like stones. Over Moscow, Russian pilots in outdated jets executed maneuvers that should have been impossible, downing alien fighters through sheer skill and daring. Their planes were inferior, but their spirits were indomitable. In the skies above Tokyo, a hastily modified civilian airliner, packed with experimental countermeasures, flew straight at the incoming alien formation. It exploded in a blast of energy that scrambled the attackers' systems, sending them crashing into Tokyo Bay. Aboard his flagship, Zixnera watched in disbelief as reports flooded in. His invincible armada was facing unexpected resistance. How could this be happening? "Admiral," Krizak chittered nervously, "we're facing heavy losses. These humans, they're fighting in ways we've never seen before." Zixnera slammed his fist on the console. "Impossible. They are savages, nothing more. Press the attack. But as the battle raged on, it became clear that the Empire had severely underestimated their opponent. Humans, faced with extinction, fought with a ferocity that shocked the alien invaders. In orbit, the first human ships equipped with reverse-engineered alien tech joined the fray. They were clumsy and crude compared to the Empire's sleek vessels, but they were piloted by men and women ready to give their lives for their planet. Captain Yuki Tanaka, at the helm of the hastily christened ESS Defiant, gritted her teeth as she maneuvered through the chaos of battle. All hands, brace for impact. She yelled as her ship rammed into an alien cruiser, its improvised energy shield flickering. The resulting explosion took out both ships, but it opened a gap in the Empire's formation. Earth fighters poured through, pressing their advantage. On the ground, it was a different kind of war. Alien dropships landed troops in major cities, expecting to find cowering primitives. Instead, they met fierce resistance at every turn. In the streets of London, British commandos armed with hybrid weapons, a mix of human firearms and scavenged alien tech, engaged in close-quarter combat with the invaders. The aliens' superior physiology was matched by human determination and home field advantage. As the first day of battle drew to a close, both sides withdrew to regroup. The Earth had suffered horrific damage, with entire cities in ruins, but they had bloodied the Empire's nose. In the White House Situation Room, a haggard President Carter received the preliminary reports. "Give it to me straight, General Chen. How bad is it?" Chen's face was grim but determined. "We've lost millions, Madam President, but we're still in the fight. More importantly, we've proven we can hurt them." Carter nodded slowly. "And the civilians? Holding up better than anyone could have expected. There are reports of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. The human spirit is shining through this darkness." As night fell across the battle-scarred planet, Admiral Zixnera stared out at the Earth, his earlier confidence shaken. This was not how it was supposed to go. These humans were supposed to be easy prey, not worthy adversaries. For the first time in his long career, Zixnera felt a flicker of doubt. He squashed it immediately. No, this was just a temporary setback. The Empire would prevail. It always did. But deep in his heart, a small voice whispered a terrifying thought. What if, this time, they had met their match? As the dust settled from the initial assault, humanity knew it had to act fast. The Galactic Empire would regroup, and the next attack would be even fiercer. In labs, factories, and secret facilities around the world, humans worked tirelessly to turn the tide. Dr. Aiden Patel hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red-rimmed as he stared at the alien device on his workbench. It was a piece of the propulsion system from a downed fighter. "Come on," he muttered. "Give up your secrets." Suddenly, his eyes widened. That's it. He rushed to his computer, fingers flying over the keyboard. "Maria. I've cracked it." Dr. Maria Gonzalez hurried over. "The FTL drive." Patel nodded excitedly. "Not just that. I think I know how to improve it. If we can build this, our ships will be faster than anything the Empire has." While scientists made breakthroughs, ordinary people found extraordinary ways to fight back. In the ruins of Paris, a group of chefs and sommeliers discovered that the aliens' enhanced senses made them vulnerable to certain strong smells and tastes. They began crafting culinary weapons, stink bombs that could incapacitate entire squads of invaders. In the Australian outback, Aboriginal trackers teamed up with special forces, using their ancient skills to hunt down alien scout parties. The invaders, used to relying on advanced technology, never saw them coming. Aboard the ESS Defiant, now repaired and upgraded, Captain Yuki Tanaka received new orders. "We're going on the offensive," she told her crew. "Earth Command wants us to test the new FTL drive by hitting one of the Empire's planets." The crew cheered, but Tanaka felt the weight of responsibility. This would be humanity's first step into the wider galaxy as warriors. Meanwhile, Admiral Zixnera faced a rebellion of his own. "What do you mean, you're pulling your forces back?" He snarled at the holographic images of his sub-commanders. "Admiral," one of them said nervously, "these humans, they're unlike anything we've faced. We need time to adapt our strategies." Zixnera's scales flashed with rage. "Cowards. I'll lead the next assault myself." As both sides prepared for the next phase of the war, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. In a small lab in Nairobi, a team led by Dr. Amina Mwangi made a startling discovery. "Look at this," Mwangi said, pointing to a screen showing alien DNA. "Their genetic structure, it's not that different from ours. I think we can create a virus that targets them specifically." Her colleague, Dr. James Chen, looked concerned. "A biological weapon. That's crossing a line, Amina." Mwangi nodded gravely. "I know, but if it can end this war and save our planet, don't we have to consider it?" The ethical debate raged, but in the end, survival won out. Project Genesis, as it was called, began development under the strictest secrecy. On the front lines, human soldiers were adapting quickly. They learned to use the aliens' own weapons against them and developed new tactics to counter the invaders' superior technology. Sergeant Ana Rodriguez crouched behind a fallen alien walker in the ruins of Rio de Janeiro. She signaled to her squad, a mix of Brazilian and Argentine troops. "Remember," she whispered, "aim for the joints in their armor, and watch out for their stun grenades." As if on cue, a group of alien soldiers rounded the corner. Rodriguez's squad sprang into action, their hybrid weapons spitting a mix of bullets and plasma. The aliens fell before they could even raise their shields. In orbit, the ESS Defiant prepared for its historic mission. Captain Tanaka addressed her crew. "What we're about to do has never been done before. We're taking the fight to the enemy's home. We'll show them that humanity is not to be trifled with." As the ship engaged its new FTL drive, Tanaka felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. They were about to make history, or die trying. Back on Earth, in the White House Situation Room, President Carter received updates from around the world. General Chen stood beside her, pointing to a holographic map. "The good news, Madam President, is that we're holding our own. The bad news is that this is just the beginning. The Empire has resources we can't even imagine." Carter nodded grimly. "Then we'll just have to be smarter, more creative, and more determined than they are." She turned to her assembled advisors. "I want every idea, no matter how crazy it might seem. Humanity's survival depends on our ability to outthink and outfight an enemy that's had thousands of years to perfect the art of war." As the meeting continued, a young aide burst in. "Madam President, we've just received word. The Defiant has successfully attacked an Empire outpost. They're on their way back now." A cheer went up in the room. For the first time since the invasion began, there was real hope. Humanity had proved it could not only defend its home, but take the fight to the enemy. Admiral Zixnera received the news of the attack with stunned disbelief. How had these primitives managed to strike so far from their homeworld? For the first time, he felt a chill of fear. What else were these humans capable of? As both sides girded themselves for the battles to come, one thing was clear. The war for Earth had become a war for the galaxy. And humanity, against all odds, was rising to the challenge. The success of the ESS Defiance mission had sent shockwaves through the Galactic Empire. Admiral Zixnera stood before the Imperial Council, his scales a dull gray from stress and lack of sleep. "Explain yourself, Admiral," the Emperor's voice boomed across the chamber. "How have these primitives managed to strike one of our outposts?" Zixnera swallowed hard. "Your Majesty, we underestimated them. These humans are more resourceful than we thought." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Then it's time we showed them the true might of the Empire. You have my authorization to use all available resources. Crush them, Admiral, or it will be your head." Back on Earth, the mood was cautiously optimistic. The successful counterattack had boosted morale, but everyone knew the Empire would retaliate soon. In the newly established Global Defense Headquarters, buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Chen briefed world leaders via hologram. The good news is we've reverse-engineered more of their tech. The bad news: our spies report the Empire is mobilizing its entire fleet. This is going to get much worse before it gets better. President Carter's hologram nodded grimly. What about Project Genesis? Dr. Amina Mwandi stepped forward. We've made progress, Madam President. The virus is nearly ready, but we're still not sure about the ethical implications. Carter sighed. Keep working on it. We may need it as a last resort. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. A young officer burst into the room. General, multiple wormholes opening in our solar system. Chen's face hardened. This is it, people. The Empire's big push. May God help us all. Across the Earth, people looked up to see the sky filled with Imperial ships. It was as if the stars themselves were falling. The Empire had arrived in force, and they were angry. In New York, Sergeant Anna Rodriguez and her squad watched in horror as massive dropships descended on the city. Okay, people, she shouted over the din of explosions. Remember your training. We've beaten them before. We'll do it again. As her team engaged the alien forces, Rodriguez couldn't help but wonder if this time it would be enough. In orbit, Captain Yuki Tanaka and the crew of the ESS Defiant found themselves in the fight of their lives. The ship's new engines allowed them to dance between enemy vessels, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. Evasive maneuvers, Tanaka yelled as another barrage of Imperial fire streaked past them. We need to buy time for the ground forces. The battle raged across the planet, and in the space above it. Humanity fought with everything they had, unleashing weapons and tactics born of desperate innovation. In London, chefs turned soldiers deployed their culinary weapons, filling the streets with odors so foul that alien troops collapsed, their enhanced senses overwhelmed. In the Amazon rainforest, indigenous warriors led alien patrols into deadly traps, using their intimate knowledge of the terrain to devastating effect. But despite these small victories, the Empire's superior numbers and technology began to tell. City after city fell under alien control. The death toll mounted, and refugees streamed into hastily established safe zones. In the White House bunker, President Carter received grim reports from around the globe. We need options, she demanded, her voice hoarse from days of crisis meetings. General Chen looked up from her tactical display. Madam President, we're considering a dangerous gambit. If we can lure their main fleet into high orbit, we might be able to detonate our entire nuclear arsenal at once. The EMP could disable their ships and irradiate the entire planet, Carter said softly. Is that our only choice? Before Chen could answer, Dr. Patel burst into the room. Madam President, we've done it. We've cracked their main computer systems. Carter's eyes widened. What does this mean, Doctor? Patel's grin was fierce. It means we can shut down their ships, their weapons, everything. But we'll only get one shot at this. As the leaders debated this new option, the battle continued to rage. Admiral Zixnera, aboard his flagship, allowed himself a smile of satisfaction. Despite some setbacks, victory was near. These humans had fought well, but in the end, they were no match for the Empire. Prepare the final assault, he commanded. It's time to end this. But even as he spoke, human hackers were worming their way into his ship's systems, preparing for a decisive strike that would turn the tide of the war. On the ground, in the ruins of Paris, Sergeant Rodriguez found herself face to face with an Imperial elite guard. As they grappled, human and alien locked in mortal combat, Rodriguez saw her life flash before her eyes. But she also saw the future, a future where humanity stood tall among the stars. With a surge of strength, she broke the alien's hold and struck a killing blow. As the elite guard fell, Rodriguez allowed herself a moment of hope. Maybe, just maybe, humanity would survive this day. Little did she know, the next few hours would determine not just the fate of Earth, but the future of the entire galaxy. The Empire had struck back with all its might, but humanity's greatest test, and perhaps its finest hour, was yet to come. The fate of Earth hung in the balance. In the Global Defense Headquarters, President Carter, General Chen, and Dr. Patil huddled around a holographic display of the battle. "We have one shot at this," Patil said, his fingers flying over a keyboard. "If we can upload this virus to their main command ship, it should spread through their entire network." Chen nodded grimly. "But how do we get close enough?" Carter's eyes lit up. "The Defiant, Captain Tanaka's ship, is still out there, right?" On the bridge of the ESS Defiant, alarms blared as the ship dodged another barrage of Imperial fire. Captain Yuki Tanaka gripped her chair, her knuckles white. "Status report," she barked. Her first officer, Commander Jackson, looked up from his console. "Shields at 20%, weapons at 40%. We can't take much more of this, Captain." Suddenly, a transmission came through. It was President Carter herself. "Captain Tanaka, we have a mission for you. It's dangerous, possibly suicidal, but it might just save Earth." Tanaka straightened in her chair. "We're listening, Madam President." As Carter explained the plan, Tanaka felt a mix of fear and determination. This was what they had trained for, what they had fought for. "All right, people," she addressed her crew after the transmission ended. "We're going to fly right into the heart of the enemy fleet. Our goal is their command ship. We'll only have one chance at this. Any objections?" The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Commander Jackson spoke up. "Just one, Captain. I call dibs on firing the first shot when we get there." A grim chuckle rippled through the crew. They were ready. Meanwhile, on the ground, the battle raged on. In the ruins of Moscow, Sergeant Anna Rodriguez and her international squad of soldiers fought a desperate holding action. "Keep them back," she yelled, firing her hybrid plasma bullet gun at the advancing alien troops. "We just need to hold out a little longer." Beside her, a young Russian soldier named Dmitri took a hit to the shoulder. As Rodriguez pulled him to cover, he looked up at her with pained eyes. "Is it true?" he asked. "Do we really have a chance?" Rodriguez nodded firmly. "We always have a chance. Humanity doesn't know how to give up." High above the Earth, Admiral Zixnera watched the battle unfold from his command ship. Victory was so close he could almost taste it. These humans had fought well, but in the end, they were no match for the Empire's might. "Sir," one of his officers called out, "we're detecting a single human ship approaching at high speed." Zixnera's scales rippled with amusement. "Just one ship. Let them come. It will be a fitting end to their resistance." But as the Defiant drew closer, evading fire with impossible maneuvers, a seed of doubt began to grow in Zixnera's mind. On the Defiant, Captain Tanaka and her crew pushed their ship to its limits. Alarms blared as systems overloaded, but they pressed on. "We're almost in range," Commander Jackson reported. "But our shields are failing. We'll be exposed." Tanaka gritted her teeth. "It's now or never. Prepare to upload the virus." Just then, a massive blast rocked the ship. Sparks flew as consoles exploded. "Direct hit," Jackson yelled. "We're losing power." Tanaka looked around at her crew, saw the fear and determination in their eyes. In that moment, she made a decision. "All hands, abandon ship," she ordered. "I'll stay and guide us in." "Captain." "No," Jackson protested. Tanaka smiled sadly. "That's an order, Commander. Earth is counting on us. Now go." As escape pods jettisoned from the Defiant, Tanaka piloted the dying ship straight towards the Imperial command vessel. Zixnera watched in growing horror as he realized the human ship's intention. "Evasive maneuvers," he roared. "Stop that ship at all costs." But it was too late. With a final burst of speed, the Defiant crashed into the Imperial ship's hull. In her last moments, Captain Tanaka hit the upload button, sending the virus coursing through the enemy systems. The effect was instantaneous. Across the Imperial fleet, ships began to lose power. Weapons went offline. Communications failed. In the Global Defense Headquarters, cheers erupted as they watched the enemy fleet grind to a halt. "She did it," Carter breathed. "Captain Tanaka did it." General Chen nodded solemnly. "And now we press our advantage. All units, attack." Across the Earth, human forces surged forward. In New York, London, Beijing, and 100 other battlefields, the tide began to turn. Sergeant Rodriguez led her squad in a charge against suddenly disoriented alien troops. "For Earth," she yelled. "For Captain Tanaka." As the battle raged on, now with humanity on the offensive, Admiral Zixnera stared out at the chaos around him. For the first time in his long life, he felt true fear. "What are these humans?" he whispered. "How could they have done this?" The war was far from over, but in that moment, the galaxy witnessed something it had never seen before: the Galactic Empire on the run, and humanity ascending to the stars not as conquests, but as conquerors. The turning point had come, and the universe would never be the same. The days following the virus attack were chaos. Across Earth, human forces pressed their advantage, driving back the disoriented Imperial troops. In space, disabled alien ships drifted helplessly, their crews in panic. Admiral Zixnera stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his once mighty armada crumble. His scales had turned a sickly pale green, a sign of deep distress in his species. "Admiral," one of his officers approached cautiously. "We're receiving transmissions from multiple ship captains. They're asking permission to surrender." Zixnera closed his eyes. In all his years of service to the Empire, he had never imagined this moment. "Tell them," he said slowly, "tell them to stand down. The war is over." On Earth, the news of the Empire's surrender spread like wildfire. In the streets of every city, people poured out in celebration. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious. In the Oval Office, now hastily repaired after the attacks, President Carter addressed the world. "My fellow citizens of Earth, today marks a new chapter in human history. We have faced an enemy that sought to enslave us, to rob us of our freedom and our future. But we stood united, we fought back, and we have prevailed." She paused, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "The cost has been high. Millions have lost their lives, including the brave Captain Tanaka and her crew. We will honor their sacrifice by building a better world, a better galaxy." As the president spoke, Sergeant Anna Rodriguez walked through the ruins of what was once downtown Paris. She saw families emerging from shelters, children pointing at the alien ships now grounded in the streets. "Sergeant," a voice called out. She turned to see Dmitri, the young Russian soldier, limping towards her with a wide grin. "We did it. We actually did it." Rodriguez smiled, feeling a mix of joy and weariness. "We sure did, kid. But our work's just beginning." In the following weeks, as Earth began to rebuild, humanity took its first steps into the galactic community. The advanced technology salvaged from the Imperial fleet opened up new possibilities. Dr. Aiden Patel stood before a group of scientists from around the world, explaining the principles behind the alien FTL drive. "With this," he said excitedly, "we can reach the stars. We can explore the galaxy." But it wasn't just Earth that was changing. News of the Empire's defeat spread across the galaxy. Long subjugated species began to rebel, inspired by humanity's victory. On the Imperial capital world, the Emperor faced a crisis. His throne room, once a place of absolute power, now felt like a prison. "Your Majesty," his chief advisor said nervously, "we're receiving transmissions from the humans. They want to negotiate." The Emperor's face twisted in anger, but there was fear behind his eyes. "Negotiate with primitives who got lucky." "With respect, Your Majesty," the advisor continued, These primitives have defeated our greatest fleet and inspired rebellion across half the Empire. We may have no choice. As the galactic order shifted, Earth found itself at the center of a new alliance. Species that had long suffered under imperial rule now looked to humanity for leadership. In a grand chamber on a neutral world, representatives from 100 planets gathered. At the center stood President Carter, flanked by General Chen and Dr. Mwanji. "We stand here today," Carter began, her voice carrying across the diverse assembly, "not as conquerors, but as partners. The Empire sought to divide us, to conquer through fear, but we propose a new way forward, unity through mutual respect and cooperation." As she spoke, holographic displays showed the ongoing reconstruction on Earth, the new ships being built with a mix of human ingenuity and alien technology, and the cultural exchanges already beginning between humanity and other species. "We have much to learn from each other," Carter continued. "And together, we can build a galaxy where no single power can ever threaten the freedom of all." The chamber erupted in applause. Species that had been enemies for millennia now stood side by side, united in their hope for a better future. As the new Galactic Alliance took shape, Earth continued to evolve. Cities were rebuilt with a mix of human and alien architecture. Schools taught xenobiology alongside traditional subjects, and in spaceports around the world, ships prepared for their first journeys to distant stars. Sergeant Rodriguez, now Colonel Rodriguez, stood at one such spaceport, watching as a sleek new vessel prepared for launch. Beside her stood Mitri, now her second in command. "Ready for our next adventure?" she asked with a grin. Mitri nodded, his eyes on the stars above. "You know, when this all started, I never imagined we'd end up here." Rodriguez laughed. "Neither did the Empire. I guess that's the thing about us humans. We're just full of surprises." As their ship lifted off, joining a fleet of Earth vessels and their new alien allies, a message beamed across the galaxy. It was simple, but it carried the weight of humanity's journey from a single blue planet to the vast cosmic stage. To all who would threaten freedom, beware. Humanity stands ready. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning.